Hello. Since I've had people ask me about it before, and since sometimes I'm busy, I thought I would explain how my Paladin build works in Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Um, this is primarily for Gilgamesh and onward, though I do think that some parts of my build could easily be applied to difficulties prior. Though of course it's going to be harder to get all your job affinities like set the way you want and all that because of the fusion option only being unlocked in Gilgamesh. But anyway, here we go. Um, so since Paladin's main job ability is Holy Fang, the first problem I ever noticed with it was how much it actually costs to keep it active. Um, but I worked out a method to be able to use it for quite an extended period of time without actually having to hit anything, so you don't have to worry about constantly turning it off and on, which I've always found to be kind of a pain. And I really wanted to play a paladin, so I figured out how to keep it active without the costs that I found to be disruptive. Um, Now, this isn't the only method, of course. This is the method I'm most comfortable with. So, the easiest thing to do, this does involve the DLC, of course. And, like, it kind of hinges on owning the DLC. Hello, buddy. Thank you for saying hello. Um, so, Summoner Affinity at 250 decreases sustained MP cost. So that includes Holy Fang, that includes a lot of different job effects. It's pretty useful overall. Anything that costs MP over time, even if it's like something like Monk's, oh, not, Focus. Something like Monk's Focus as well, that counts. Um, I think it even includes Starlight, things like that. Um, but that will decrease the cost of Holy Fang no matter what. So that's just by itself pretty important for anybody to have if they want to use a Paladin. Second step of it is Evoker 400%. Hold on. At 400%, it gives you Clear Mind. MP slowly recovers when HP is at max. So, with that, you can now gain your whole gaining MP thing. Uh, will mean that whenever your HP isn't max, which is what Holy Fang does if your HP isn't at max anyway, recover your HP all the way up if you land any hits. So that means if your HP isn't at max, you can recover it simply by activating Holy Fang and hitting enemies. And once your HP is at max, you'll be able to heal all the way back up. And after that, your MP drain will go down significantly. Here, I will go get hit by a goblin to demonstrate.
Let's go.
Here's the cost at full HP. Here's the cost at less than full HP. And now that my HP is at max, I'm doing the holy damage and my HP staying safe. And my MP cost is quite low. And there is one more step, however, to the sustainability. And that is Void Knight 250. Void Knight 250 increases the potency of MP recovery effects. Now that includes Evoker 400 effects, Clear Mind. So that is the third and final step to the MP part of my build, because I think the MP sustainability is quite good. It's a pretty safe option to have overall. Now, this isn't the only method for Paladin sustainability. There's also Magic Regen, which you get from Red Mage, which I use on playthroughs where I haven't been able to get enough job affinity, like earlier playthroughs. Or there's Berserker 400, which is easier to get since it doesn't require the DLC. But getting your MP to 400 with Berserker outside of the DLC is going to be quite a bit harder. But those are the primary steps for MP recovery. Is make sure you have Holy Fang, sorry, not Holy Fang, Void Knight 250, Summoner 250, and then something to recover your MP. This decreases the cost, this increases the gain, and something like Clear Mind allows you to regenerate MP, but Magic Regen and Berserker 250, sorry, Berserker 400 are also options for you to use. Um, I feel like there's something else I'm thinking of. Like, you could use Chaos Bringer, but I don't think that's that great an idea. I don't use Berserker 400 because I dislike the cost of Lightbringer being mandatory. And I know there's Infinite Lightbringer, but I don't really like depending on that. It seems like it's a pretty easy crutch to lose, especially when it comes to having to deal with trials later on. Now, that's just the MP recovery part. Second, we have the actual damage and survivability factors. So since Paladin's HP is where its damage comes from and its defense, you want to get Monk 400. Monk 400, also known as Mantra, which is also the effect the muscle belt gives you. That's an extremely important part of building a Paladin, because unlike everybody else, without high HP, Paladin will be kind of useless. Um, Not entirely, but anyway, you really need that to be able to get your Paladin the most out of your Paladin. It kind of makes Muscle Belt like the objectively correct accessory for you if you're playing a Paladin, which I find a little bit annoying sometimes, because I'd like to be able to switch my accessory around, but if you do that, you'll lose an entire third of your damage. So, I have gear to get my Monk Affinity up to at least 600%, because the 600% effect is that you deal non-elemental damage based on your max HP. That's the only way you can deal damage as a Paladin without Holy Fang active, and like significantly anyway. And it also stacks with Holy Fang, so you can add that in for extra damage. Monk 250 is something I also take advantage of by having parry bonus effects, but that's not mandatory. It's just something I like to do, and it ensures that your affinity isn't going to waste. So, and this accessory, since the Gilgamesh accessories allow you to take another job's 400% effect and have it on for free, that's the only accessory that stacks with the 400% effect. Nothing else does that. So that's good to keep in mind. Nothing else will allow you to do that. So like if you had Black Mage 400 and you had a Hypno Crown on, the Hypno Crown would be doing absolutely nothing. So Muscle Belt is still kind of objectively correct. That's why you want that, because it's the only thing that stacks with itself. There's no other way to get an extra 400% Monk, but having that allows you to double your max HP. Those two things together. I am recovering from a cold, so sorry about that. Next, if you're using Holy Knight, which is often recommended, you want to have Dark Knight 400. Dark Knight 400 allows you to be near death at all times, which adds Holy Fang and Holy Arts, which, activates the Holy Arts effect, allowing you to effectively double your base Holy Fang damage. Now, I don't believe that stacks with Holy Fang damage dealt, so it's basically, I think, like another, I feel like it's another 25% damage, ultimately. Now, I don't know the math on that, so I'm sorry if that's incorrect. But it does still increase your damage ultimately, and it also increases your healing. Your healing is effectively doubled from Holy Fang at all times. So that alone makes it pretty worth it. It also has Flames of Rebellion and Adrenaline bonus. So Flames of Rebellion means that when an enemy is locked on you, you deal more damage. And since as a Paladin, it's a pretty good idea for the focus to be on you and not on any allies, that is quite helpful, I find. And next, this isn't essential, but it does help. Take your weapon bonus and get that to your weapon job affinity and get that up to 400 or 600. Ideally 600, but it's not necessary. So 400 will allow you to use all weapon abilities and increases the damage dealt by 50%. And then 600 decreases the cost by half. so you don't have to focus on action ability MP cost or weapon cost in your first two gear effect lines. I used to have that on, but I don't need to worry about that anymore since I have Sword Fighter 600%. 250 for a Sword Fighter especially is quite nice. It allows you to dash right up to an enemy, like so. Here, maybe I should have said that after getting close, but right there, you go quite a distance. That damage is exclusively due to Monk 250. Now, sorry, yeah, Monk 600, my mistake. I was thinking of the 250 effect from Sword Fight. Anyway, there is one more step now, and that is your actual gear. So, for Paladins, you want to focus on HP. Your greatest stat as a Paladin is going to be HP. Your second most important stat is going to be Stamina, and your third most important stat is going to be Spirit. Now, Spirit is not where the holy damage comes from, but Spirit is what influences holy damage when it comes to your actual combo moves. So I have a lot of Stamina and Spirit-oriented attacks. I also have Ascension because I like it. But otherwise, I mostly focus on Spirit and Stamina-oriented attacks because those are Paladin's greatest stats. Now, its Spirit isn't ideal. It's actually mediocre, unfortunately, but it's still its third highest stat. And its Stamina is second highest, so you want to focus on that. But when it comes to Job Affinity, sorry, not Job Affinity, Summon Blessing, you want to focus on, so your best gear option is going to be Titan gives HP, and it gives you the second highest Stamina. Next, after that, is Alexander, which is tied for second highest HP, and it has the highest Stamina, and it's tied for second highest Spirit. So that makes it a pretty safe option. Now I would say in third is probably Ifrit, because it's also second highest HP, second highest Stamina, but it also has a lot of strength, which isn't really useful for Paladins. Even though they pretty much do nothing but melee attacks, their strength is pretty low. It's not the lowest, but it's on the lower side. And then I would say Phoenix is probably your fourth best, but still a pretty good idea to have, because the Phoenix Blessing, oh, sorry, I don't have it. But the Phoenix Blessing means that you can resurrect allies for free just by touching them, or like going up and interacting with them. And as well, you can, after dealing a certain amount of damage, gain one free resurrection, which after it's exhausted, you can then refill again simply by landing more hits. So, remember, Titan best, Alexander second best. And if you can't get one of those, you can go for Ifrit or Phoenix. Now, something else for any single job is that if you can't get your ideal or your second closest to ideal summon blessings, then Bahamut is just a safe choice for everything. It is mediocre in every aspect and thus safe for everybody. Leviathan is also quite in the middle of the road for anything. Now, the absolute worst stats for you to focus on as a paladin are agility and intellect. Agility and intellect are extremely low for a paladin, and they really won't do very much for you. That's one of the problems with the paladin, since landing attacks and gaining MP, your MP gain is based on your intellect, so that will limit your actual ability to recover MP. Following that, let's see, there was something else. Oh yes, command abilities. So, I have Sentinel, Provoke, Bravery, and Lightbringer. Lightbringer is my preference. You can do Chaosbringer since Paladin does break damage, but that will, of course, cost a whole lot of MP, and you need to be able to make sure you have a way to recover that. And next, Dimension Bringer. I don't like Dimension Bringer because I like parrying. I like being able to stay on offense or defense, and Dimension Bringer pretty much means that your enemy doesn't really act at all. So you just kind of sit there and hit them, which I don't enjoy all that much. So I focus quite heavily on Sentinel. since Sentinel is a command ability that is rooted in Paladin. It's based on your HP. It takes half of your HP, and then that will serve as a barrier over your actual HP. And that means that if you get hit, it takes from your Sentinel instead. See, there's that little outer layer there, like how the Titan meter and the Phoenix meter are there. That's actually the same for Sentinel. And if it hits me enough, this Goblin, then you'll be able to see it drain, but it has to get through the Titan meter first. See, it's starting to go down a little. Thank you. Thank you, kitty cat. Yeah, but the most common choice for survival for late game is in Gilgamesh and onward is Nightbringer, and people still have the impulse to use that in Gilgamesh and onwards, even if they're playing a job that won't necessarily need it. Paladins don't really need Nightbringer at all, which is to say entering any sort of bringer state with Night 400% job affinity, which will make you invulnerable for the duration of that bringer state. And that also often hinges on infinite Lightbringer. I don't like doing that, so I don't do it. Next, I have Provoke on. Provoke reduces incoming damage, both physical, magical, and it also includes the break damage you take. So that's pretty helpful. Bravery increases your break gauge recovery and the damage you output. So it's pretty helpful, and it applies to allies as well. So it's both supportive and offensive. And I like the combination of those. So I have built it to be kind of tanky, relatively sustainable, and just capable of doing enough damage. Now, you won't be, if you're playing with like a breaker or something, the breaker will almost certainly be doing more damage than you. This isn't a one-shot build. One-shot builds aren't really that important to me. They can be fun, but I would rather fight an enemy. And Paladins are pretty safe overall, what with their 400% effect being that you just don't take any status ailments at all. Any of them. You're just immune. And that all of the HP recovery effects help to keep you pretty safe. You can get HP recovered from your Holy Fang, you can get it recovered from your Lightbringer, and if you just want to invest in it a little bit, you can get parry HP recovery, or having Bhakti, the Iron Giant, out in the Rift means that any of your parries will recover your HP as well. If you don't want to invest in it, but you still want to get the extra Paladin affinity, that's a good option for you. I have extra Monk and Paladin affinity just for an extra HP boost. Let's see. You don't also. I just built my Paladin as is to represent the appearance preset that I had. Since I've been playing for so long, I figured I had enough gear that I could probably meet my needs. So you do need the 250% job affinity on a weapon to be able to use. It doesn't have to be a weapon. I don't know why I said that. On one piece to get the 250% effects out of Summoner and Void Knight most efficiently. That's not necessary that's not mandatory, but it does just make sure that you only have to worry about one piece of gear. They don't have to be the same piece of gear, but if you only have one 250% piece of gear, you can just put them both on that, and then not stop worrying about it. And if you're wondering if this is actually ever positive, it is, like the MP cost. If you are in the Rift and you have Dawn or Aether out, the Pisca Demon or the Bucephalus, the Tentacle Lady or the Horse, they increase your MP recovery, and that includes Evoker 400%. So, with that, you actually stop losing MP overall. You just gain MP even when you have Holy Fang active. But since the cost is so minor, you can look here. It's right up there in the top right, MP. I believe it costs about 100 MP, lasts you about 3 minutes, is what I tested. So you can last for about 20 minutes with Holy Fang on without hitting a single enemy. So you don't really have to worry. Like, it's not infinite, but it's not, the cost is so minor that you don't have to worry about it really at all. Unless you have to deal with a trial like max MP boost and recovery. But with Sentinel, that means you don't have to worry about enemy attacks deplete buffs, because depleting buffs doesn't actually reduce the buff, it reduces the time the buff lasts for. And since Holy Fang isn't based on time, and neither is Sentinel, Sentinel is based on your HP and Holy Fang is based on your MP, neither of those buff states will be depleted by that actually kind of terrible trial. I don't mean terrible in game design terms, I just mean like difficult to deal with. But those will be negated. Now, max HP, on the other hand, that will be your biggest nightmare, because at 50%, that means both Sentinel and your damage output will be reduced by half. That can make things pretty dangerous. So you really want to be on the lookout for that, and you want to have another job to supplement you in case of that. So I currently have White Mage as my supplementary job. Now, that isn't the only option, of course. I also have options for using Knight, Monk, and Void Knight. Void Knight isn't like an ideal sort of off job for, or support job for a Paladin, but I do find that together the two can kind of deal with anything. Since Paladin is very direct and can be as offensive or defensive as you want to play, and that Void Knight is very defensive, but all of its defense is turned into offense. They're both capable of functioning as defensive or offensive, but since Void Knight attacks at a range and is primarily static, like you just stand there and block, that means it's less active. But Paladins, you tend to try to be in the enemy space as much as possible and try to land as many hits as you can to take them down. They kind of balance each other out in terms of play style. And any enemies that are weak to magic but not to holy or something like that, you can just turn that against them. Or if they are a little bit too offensive for you to, or do a little bit too physical for you to really damage with your Void Knight, then you can just get in right up to them with your Paladin. But White Mage is capable of buffing, so you can give yourself a free res with Seer, then you can cast Haste, Shell, Protect, and Regen. Now I also have a pretty similar build on my Seer in terms of Evoker 400. Now, you don't need Summoner 250 to reduce MP cost, because your MP cost isn't sustained when you're playing a White Mage, but you are able to still take advantage of Summoner's 120 and 50% job affinity effects, which allow you to rebuild your rebuild your max MP by chain canceling after you complete a combo ability. It doesn't have to be a combo ability, actually. You can just say cast haste, switch over, you've gained more MP. You can also combine that with Gambler, and then with Gambler 50 and 120 you can recover your actual MP rather than just your max MP. But I don't currently have that active. Now, there was something else. Knight means that whenever you block, if you activate your Blessing of Light, that means whenever you block, you'll do holy damage, and that stacks with Holy Fang, so you can activate that as your Knight, then swap over, and then activate Holy Fang, and that means every time you block, Holy Fang procs, and so does Blessing of Light. Then you'll be doing damage every time you block, and the damage will be equal to an attack. So it's pretty safe. It's about as safe as you can get. In addition to that, it gives you a nice little bit of stamina to go along with your Paladin, and that'll help you out. Now, Monk is probably the most obvious job to have as a support for Paladin, because it both has I think it has the third highest HP scaling for jobs in the game. And since you want Monk affinity anyway, and your two equipped jobs will share affinity, it gives you an extra boost, so you don't have to worry as much about getting that 600% effect, because you can get that a bit more easily. You don't have to use a sword. I just like a sword. Paladins have kind of a limited range of weapons they can equip. But the short rundown is that since sword has a lot of a wide variety of moves, it's pretty flexible. So it's not that it's a pretty good choice for anything that can equip a sword. It's just, you know, the sword and shield. It's a very safe option. Um, I would say that Greatsword is also a good option because of all the guards it has and how many stamina rooted moves it has. The mace doesn't have quite as many, but it still has some guard options within it, which I find quite helpful. And then there's staff, which I like the staff. I think it's fun, but Holy Fang is based on your range, like your proximity to the enemy. If they're too far away, then it won't do anything. The damage simply won't add. You won't heal off of attacks you land if you're too far from the enemy. So you need to be close enough to actually proc Holy Fang. So that kind of makes the whole extendable staff thing less functional. It doesn't work as well for a paladin. And you might think that maybe other stats would cover for that, but not really. So, yeah, I'd say that sword and greatsword are probably most ideal. Mace is pretty decent option, but staff, I wouldn't say stay away from it. You can still use it, but the ranged moves, the extended moves, and the casting moves, I wouldn't say to focus on those, because your damage will be reduced unless you're right up in the enemy's face, but that would kind of detract from the whole point of an extendable weapon. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Let's see. Oh yeah, my gear effects. So you probably want, if you, first of all, you probably want HP on everything. Holy Break damage dealt, damage taken at max MP, at max HP if you're trying to go with Sentinel, both good. And trying to make sure your break gauge stays up, also a good idea. I have near death damage taken because that is always active since I have the Dark Knight 400 affinity. I have all damage taken, which I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe it includes break damage. But generally the all damage stuff is less efficient because it won't, since it's covering everything, it can't be better than the more specific effects. Otherwise, it would negate them entirely. I have break damage taken, I have stamina, I have damage taken at max HP, but I have HP on everything, I have damage dealt Holy Fang on everything, and then I have things for improving the effect of Sentinel, reducing the cost of Sentinel, then improving the effect, reducing the cost of Provoke and Bravery. I don't have any, you can't improve the effect of Provoke. Provoke does also scale, like, the damage reduction scales with other damage reduction effects you have active as well. So I think improving the effect would, in fact, make it kind of too strong because you could reduce damage to the point where it doesn't exist for the very low cost of 1 MP bar. And then Bravery, you can improve the effect. That does improve the damage output, and the break gauge recovery according to the spreadsheet. But I don't use improved effect Bravery very often, so I kind of find it doesn't really need it. Like, it's still improving your damage output, it's still recovering your break gauge, and it's still much safer than other command abilities that increase your damage. I know Mighty Strikes is quite safe, quite popular, but I don't really feel the need for it. If you don't want to use Provoke, you don't have to. It's not mandatory, but one of the most common ones is Lunatic, and you can easily just put Lunatic on and then increase your attack speed. Now that will, of course, reduce your break gauge recovery, or not reduce your break gauge recovery, but negate your active constant break gauge recovery, your passive break gauge recovery. But Bravery negates that, like it counters that, and it also, if you have refill break gauge on attack, then that will actually help you quite a bit. And it will, if you have any Berserker affinity, from 50% or 120%, that will mean that whenever you land attacks, that will simply be innate. You don't have to worry about putting it on a gear effect. So that does put another point in Berserker's favor. Berserker is a very good option. I just don't really want to do it because of the cost. Though with Berserker 600, you don't have to activating Lightbringer that much. So it is quite helpful, and Berserker 250 stacks with Dark Knight 400, which is of course suggested. Now, if you do want to play a Royal Guard instead, you don't have to worry as much about MP. That means that if you attack an enemy enough times, which shouldn't take that long since you're always going to be doing holy damage, then every single attack you land after that will recover your MP far more. So your MP sustainability is far less of an issue. However, you will heal less than you would as a Holy Knight, and you will do less damage. Like, your max damage output is going to be reduced. So you'd have to focus more on damage dealt Holy Fang. But it would save you the MP sustainability effects. Or at least Evoker 400 would become far less mandatory, or whatever you choose, like Magic Regen or something along those lines. You could also do Lancet, or, oh, there had to be another one. You could do Magic Arts as well, but I really haven't experimented with Lancet or Magic Arts as options. I have used Magic Regen before. But that's about all I can think of for things that I try to focus on when I play my Paladin. It's not like the best job in the game. That's something I've seen a lot, is when people see me play Paladin, is that they will, when I go online and play with others, if they're not very experienced in the game, a lot of players, when I say a lot, it's probably only 3, but they'll see me playing Paladin, and then they'll switch to Paladin, because they assume I'm playing the best job or whatever. It's not the best job in the game. It's not even, like, I don't think it's even in the top 3 or anything like that. It's just kind of pretty good. It's relatively high if there is a tier list, I think, from what I've seen. I don't know if that's still valid from when I saw it, but it's just kind of good. It's safe, but it's not the most damaging job. It's not invincible or anything. It's just safe, it's strong, it's reliable. It's pretty comfortable as well, if you don't want to go out of your way to max out your damage or play high risk, high reward. It's relatively low risk with a decent reward. It's about as consistent as you can get. But people will see me, they'll see me play a Paladin, and they'll think, oh, that's got to be a good job to play. Well, yes, but I don't play it because it's good. I play it because I'm weird and I like Paladins. Like, here, I can show you how much I like Paladins, actually. I like them. I like to play Paladins. I got a lot of Paladins. I'm not playing it because it's the best. I'm playing it because I like it. I wanted a game like this. I wanted a Final Fantasy action game that was multiplayer, rather than FF14, which isn't quite an action game and requires an active subscription. I wanted something closer to this. And then I got this game, and I loved it. I loved it quite a bit, as you can see if you look at my hours in the top right. But that's my advice for playing a Paladin, and yes, those hours, I believe about 90% of them have been spent playing Paladin. 90% is probably an underestimate. But, yeah, that's my advice if you do want to build a Paladin. I'm sorry, I went longer than I intended, but I'll be shutting it off here. Thanks for watching, and I hope that this was able to teach you something. Or if not, you had an enjoyable enough time watching it. Alright, thank you, and good night.